now take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say a hotep, a baragani to my Africana Studies people. And good morning, and a good afternoon, a good evening. I don't know what time you may be watching this, but of course, never good night and never ever goodbye, because I find goodbyes traumatizing. My name is Nathaniel Wayne Martin, Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I am the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and we are located at 8916 South Main Street, and we are being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church. Two congregations, one church, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one service. And so you're invited to come and worship with us at any and all time. Now remember, we're at 8916 South Main. Google Maps still shows us at the other place, which we sold, but they don't seem to be so cooperative when I tell them we relocated. Anyway, that's water under the bridge. The main thing is to let the public know that we are located at 8916 South Main, and we're still going strong. The church is more than a building, or more than an address, or more than a geographic location. Because Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell should not prevail against it. So that means the church was more than a mere organization. It was an organism, and so we who are the organism of the church are going on, and we're not just looking at the geographical residential location. But God is blessing us in the fellowship that we have established there at 8916 South Main, New Life Institutional Baptist Church. That's our big white building with red letters. You're going to either see, as you drive by, New Life, or you're going to see Shiloh, but you're going to see us up there. All you got to do is park and come on in to join in the service, all right? And we have service tonight at 7. And then, of course, this Sunday morning with Sunday school beginning at 10 a.m. And then, of course, as soon after Sunday school as possible, we will begin morning worship, usually around 11:15. So you have time to get there. And we thank God for the fellowship, and we thank God for the communion. And we thank God for the meeting among His people. And we'd love to see you in the place. The offering which you are viewing or listening to is entitled It's Time, and it's time for social justice. And since social justice and it's time is such a broad subject, we had to narrow it down, like the English teacher would tell you. And so we narrowed the social justice that we concern ourselves with down to the environment, the physical and the weather and the climate, as well as the sociological impact upon each person of their environment. Because, you know, we don't live in a vacuum. We live among society. We live in society. And so society impinges upon us and influences us. And I know back in our school days, they used to ask the question, was it nurture or nature that made a person behave in a certain manner? And of course, we know that it is also the environment, the society in which one exists, that has a great influence upon how one turns out. I'm currently trying to keep up with the Parkland shooter trial, and from what I can see, he was a wreck from Jump Street, but they kept passing him and promoting him, and until he just flamed out and wound up killing 17 people and injuring 17 others. And now as they go back trying to keep him out of the electric chair because he's already confessed guilty to the crimes committed, now they come up with, as they bring up his lessons and his writings from grammar school, where he's always had a problem. And I can't help but look at the way that they treat our black children when they may not even have a problem, but just look like they could have attention deficit disorder. But they write our children up and push them off into special ed and all that type of stuff. But they kept this child, this Nicholas Cruz, and they were trying to say that he was all right and trying to work with him. But of course his teachers were telling a different story. And they were notifying the principals and all of that type of stuff. But in spite of all of those red flags, as they say, they kept him in school. And they kept him in the class. And if you look at some of the lessons that he turned into the teacher, they are very macabre and bizarre. And the profanity that he addressed the teachers with on paper, my goodness. If a black child had done that, he'd have been out. Just shows you how the difference in the educational system operates when your child is not black. All right, moving on our way, because I don't know why I brought that up, because that's not what I want to talk about. I really want to talk about the Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson debut on the Supreme Court. She did a fabulous job. She raised the 1866 Civil Rights Law Act, which is still on the books, and how that it was not, as they call it, race neutral or colorblind. And she brought up the fact that it explicitly stated that it was drawn up in order to protect the freed slaves, the people who had been slaves who are now free, so that they would have the same rights as the white people. And it states that in the act itself. And she put emphasis on that in order to dispel this business of race neutral or colorblind, as it is often referred to. And that is coming up in a case called Merrill v. Milligan. And Mr. Milligan is a black man, and he challenged the Alabama redistricting plan, whereby the state of Alabama had carved up the black belt. You know, Alabama is 27% black. That means a third of the people in Alabama are black. And as you know American history, you know they're more or less all in one general area. So when it comes back to bite the state of Alabama, they want to break up that voting block, because those black people vote as a block and they vote together. And so they have come up with a map, a redistricting map, that will allow Alabama only one majority black voting block, where they usually should at least have two. And so the state of Alabama has appealed to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, and that is what the argument was about. It was a case. I gave you the name of the case. but it's case number 21-1086 combined with case number 21-1087, and they had the hearing this week, and it was a very lively hearing on both sides. And Clarence Thomas asked about the controllers in the decision to redraw the district, and how did they not take race? Because you know they can't take race into account, and so the law states that you can't use race, but if the effect is race, then it is other words, if it hurts or diminishes. Oh, that's the word I'm looking for. The voting dilution is what's at bottom of all of these redrawn maps. They used to take us out and lynch us, or they used to shut or block us from registering to vote, or they'd ask you to take a test, and they'd ask you how many bubbles in a bar of soap, how many pieces of candy in a jar, and all that kind of stuff. But now they do what you call redistricting and gerrymandering, which is equally as brutal. It accomplishes the same purpose in that it dilutes the vote of the black people, and it maximizes the vote of the white district. For instance, they brought up the fact that in all of these map redrawings, I think it was Justice Sotomayor or Justice Kagan that brought that up, they never break up Mobile, and they never break up Baldwin counties. I jotted down some of those terms that they were using because I found them quite intriguing. Let me see, can I get... Okay, now, they call the majority, the district where the black people are one, they call that a majority minority. All right, but now they got words like reasonably compact, maximization and proportionality. All of these things. And it was brought out that in the state of Alabama, they had split up the black belt. In other words, they used the word cracked. They cracked the black belt, but they never cracked the Mobile and Baldwin. Those districts are contiguous, and they're compact, and they're together. And whoever the map drawer is, they don't want to break up that one, but they want to bust up the ones where the black people are in order to dilute their voting power. And you have to be careful about when you move back, move to another area. Always try to see, am I moving where I have some voting power? Because when push comes to shove, you're going to have some local voting power on the school boards, on the city councils, and on the county and state issues, and certainly on the federal and the national arena or campaigns or elections. You need voting blocks. You need the cohesion. You need power. That's how you make the politicians come talk to you. When you got power, you got a voting block. When they can get a block of votes, that's why they all used to go to black churches, because black churches that's where all the black people was at on Sunday. And they usually follow what the pastor said. And that's why the politicians always show up at your church during election time, singing your hymns and reading your prayers and telling you to vote for me. But be that as it may, and not to get off the subject, voting dilution is what the Republican Party is after, how to dilute the Democratic Party's hold so that they can continue to dominate through these creative redistricting maps. Now, Alabama has 14 districts, but all 10 of those districts are going to be in Republican hands as a result of the ability of the legislators to redraw, reconfigure, and all of this, the maps. Case in point, there's a case from North Carolina that went up to the Supreme Court, and it was so configured that even the state Supreme Court justice says, no, we can't let you push this redistricting map in, because in North Carolina the Democrats and Republicans are just about equal, but yet the map that the legislators drew favored only Republicans. And so the state Supreme Court said no, and of course that case also is up before the Supreme Court, because as the Alabama case, and there's another case from Louisiana, and the North Carolina case, all are going to be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. Well, now comes the problem. You got 7 conservative justices up there. Yes, Chief Justice Thomas ain't no better. And so even though Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson replaced Judge Stephen Breyer, who retired, you still have Gorsuch, Neil Gorsuch, and Clarence Thomas, and Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, and Alito, and did I miss anybody? Anyway, those 7. Of course, John Roberts can vote on either side as he desires, because he can make it appear as though he is neutral, because he know he got these 6 conservatives on his side that's going to vote against these other 3. So it can be 6-3, or it could be 5-4 if he jumps over there with Ms. Kagan and Ms. Ketanji Brown Jackson. But keep in mind that Chief Justice John Roberts has had the Voting Rights Act in his sights to destroy ever since he was an intern and a clerk in these other justices' offices. So he's no friend to the black cause, because when you're talking about colorblind, who in the world want a colorblind doctor, and so you have all of these intrigues going on up at the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has suffered its status, its prestige has fallen, because people recognize that it's an activist court, that it's a political agency. It's acting on, at this time, it's acting at the behest and on the to the benefit rather of the Republican Party. Let's keep in mind that Jeannie Thomas was called before the January 6th committee to testify to her activities and involvement with the January 6th insurrection. Because come to find out that she not only supported and sympathized, but that she also paid money for the people to be transported from their locations, wherever they, in other words, boarded the buses at, to be brought up to Washington, D.C. for that day. So she's in there with the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and the KKK and whatever else on that conservative side. She's in the election deniers, and they properly tried to overthrow the government, democracy, on that day. You can sugarcoat it as you will, but everybody up there should be held for treason. They're not going to be held for treason because the people who fomented the Civil War, the Confederates, they were not held for treason. They were forgiven, and most of them returned to the state legislators and to the U.S. Congresses, from which they had promised or rebelled, rather. So don't hold your breath for the treason charge to be vouchsafed and to be carried out. It's not going to be so. All right. Anyway, you got all of these terms that the subjective mathematical community of interest, and that's the black community and the white community. Those are the communities of interest, but the only community of interest they want to break up is the black community. And the lawyer for Alabama, I can't think of his name. His name escapes me right now. But he did his best to disparage the black district because it was said it was too long and it was too broad and too wide and too big, and they have broken it up four times, but they never break up, like I said, the Mobile to Baldwin. They don't break that up. That's still contiguous because that's mostly the so-called white people. So it'll be interesting to see how the justices rule, but I can tell you what the outcome is going to be. Going 6-3, those 6 conservatives are going to vote for the Alabama plan. And they're going to try to gut the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, just like they voted the Voting Rights Act, Section 5. And they're going to neutralize Gingles. They're going to do their best to show you some justification. Don't get me wrong. Some rationalizations is what we're going to be subjected to, but the end result is going to be just like the formula in a logical syllogism. If you start wrong, you're going to end wrong. If your premise is false and your minor premise is false, then no matter what you do, your conclusion is going to have to be false. And what I'm saying is that having started with racism way back in slavery and then come up out of Reconstruction and then double down on the racism because of the racial hatred, then that is why the blacks of Alabama are in the living conditions that they are, and a lot of them are living in poverty, living below poverty, still trying to eke out a living. Those that can't get up and move because of age or whatever other disabilities they may have. Remember, a lot of people in Alabama are incarcerated and they can't move. And so taking all of that together, then you can see how the white districts are still controlling the black district. Not only in the state of Alabama, but in the state of North Carolina, and certainly in the state of Louisiana. All right. So keep your eye on the Supreme Court. The case is, like I said, is Merrill v. Milligan. Merrill is the Secretary of State for Alabama, and Mr. Milligan is the plaintiff who challenged the state legislature's redistricting drawing and said, why don't you have at least two? You should have at least two majority black districts. And of course, with the Roberts Court talking about everything has to be colorblind and race neutral, then you can look for the fireworks to fly. But I'm grateful that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson not only brought up the 1866 Civil Rights Act, but she also brought up the 14th Amendment and its original purpose to smooth the way for the protection of the newly freed, formerly enslaved. The original language, of course, said as they may have the same rights as enjoyed by any white person. That's what the language originally said. But of course, now with the John Roberts Court and this colorblindness, race neutral. All right, got my 5 minutes. Doctrine of the Roberts Court. Then, of course, with these 6 conservatives on the bench, then, of course, there's no point in holding your breath for a good outcome. They're going to mealy mouth and, like I said, rationalize and come around the circumlocutions and vote for the state of Alabama. And in so doing, they're going to dilute the voting rights and the voting power of the black people, not only across the state of Alabama, but North Carolina, Louisiana, Texas, Florida, all across the South. You can just watch. You can just wait on it. Get ready for it, because we're in for a rough ride as it relates to our voting power. The suffrage has always been a challenge. They either want to, if they can't lynch you, they can't kill you, they can't intimidate you, they can't buy you off, then of course they will go do the next best thing and go to the redistricting maps or the gerrymandered maps and accomplish the same purpose. And so you cannot rest. You got to stay on your toes and keep working. As I close, Herschel Walker is in hot water, and I hope, but he still has 49 million votes there in the state of Georgia. But I'm hoping that there can be enough turbulence raised in virtue of his hypocrisy, especially since this woman now has come forward and said not only did he have an abortion with her he paid for her first abortion, he wanted her to pay for the second abortion. He had an aborted baby with her, and he has a 10-year-old son with this same woman. And of course, she's not coming forward with her name for the sake of the child. But she's come forward with the receipts and come forward with the get well card and the council check that he wrote for $700. And they broke up because she wouldn't have this second abortion that he wanted her to have. And that is the occasion. That was the reason why they broke up. And I believe he's paying $2,500 or $3,500 a month to this child. But given the hypocrisy of the Republican Party, I don't see whether that's going to. I don't know whether that's going to put enough doubt in the minds of the voting public to get Senator Ralph Warnock another full term. All right, my time is up, and I want to thank you for your time. And that's old Brad Pye's statement. We want you to continue to support your unions And as I close, your unions give you voting power. They give you power when to bargaining power. And if you are working on a job, try to get the most you can for your labor. And once you put your labor out there, you cannot get it back. And if you're working with someone and they don't want to pay you, my brothers and my sisters, take Dr. Martin's advice and don't work for them. All right? God bless you. Thank you, Doc. We out of here. Love you.